see that it's a tan u minus v, right? So I'm going to draw my two triangles. I'm going to draw a red triangle that represents the u. So it's right here. If it was negative, it would be in second quadrant. So SOHCAHTOA. So they're giving me the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So the adjacent is 4, hypotenuse is 5. If you do Pythagorean theorem, you see that the 3 remains. So it's a 3, 4, 5. If we draw the blue triangle, we know that inverse sine, if it's negative, is down here. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so the 7 is opposite and the 25 is the hypotenuse. So we have 7, 25, and because it says negative, one of those is negative, and we know down is negative, so the 7 is negative. If we do Pythagorean theorem, the last side that remains is 24. When we look at this formula, we know we're going to use the tan u minus b formula, which says tan of u minus tan v all over 1 plus tan u times tan v. And remember, when we see u, we look at the red triangle. And when we see the v, we're going to go to the blue triangle. So first says, let's see, so first we see tan of u. So tan of the red triangle. Tan is opposite over adjacent. So we know it's 3 over 4. So we'll have 3/4 minus tangent of the blue triangle, so opposite over adjacent, so negative 7 over 24. In the denominator we have 1 plus, so tan of the red triangle, again tan is opposite over adjacent, so 3/4, times tan of the blue triangle, again negative 7 over 24. So we need to simplify the numerator, then simplify denominator, and move from there. So these double negatives turn positive. So 3/4 and 7/24. When we simplify that, we're going to get 25 over 24. So this is 3. So you can multiply this by 6, right? So we would have over here 18. And then we'd have 18 plus 7. So 18 plus 7 up top here would get us 25 over that common denominator of 24. So that's our numerator. Now let's look at the denominator down here. So in our denominator, we first need to multiply these, right? Order of operations. So if we did negative 7 times 3 over 4 times 24, we would get negative 21 over 96, which would simplify to negative 7 over 32. And you can notice right off the bat that this divides by 3 and this divides by 3, right? So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 24 divided by 3, we would get the 8. So now we're left with negative 7 over 32 plus 1. So 1 is the same as 32 over 32, and 32 minus 7 over 32 is how we're going to get. So let's see, we have, 32 minus 7, so we get 25 over 32. Now we want to change division to multiplication and flip our fraction on the right. So we'll put the 32 up top. $25 in denominator. Over here we have 25. Over 24. And we can look along the diagonal and cross stuff out, or we can multiply and then reduce. And when we do that, we will end up with 4/3. All right, these simplify, those cancel out. And then 32 over 24, you can divide both of those by 8. And that's how you end up with 4/3. Last one. Okay, so one more solving problem. Solve for x in this interval. So that means that we're going to spin around the unit circle and say, where is cosine this value at this spot, and this spot, right? This is a u and a v. So we're going to first look at this little section right in here, and we're going to expand. So we know cos u plus v is going to be cos u times cos v. Cos u times cos v minus sine u times sine v. So let's take care of this piece first. We know that in the u slot, we're going to plug in an x, and in the v slot, we're going to plug in pi over 4. So cos of u, we're going to write cos x times cos v, cos of pi over 4. So we could either say pi over 4, or we could say 45 degrees, right? So I'm going to write 45. Minus sine of u, which is x, times sine of v, pi over 4, which is also 45 degrees. We know that at 45 degrees, cosine and sine are both root 2 over 2. So cos x times cos 45 is root 2 over 2. So you have that times cos x minus sine of 45 is also root 2 over 2. So sine x times root 2 over 2. Its proper form, let's put the numbers in front of the cos x. So we have root 2 over 2 cos x minus root 2 over 2 sine x. So all of that is that first part. I'm going to bring down the minus, right? So it's going to be this expression minus all of this. So let's break this stuff down now. So for this one, we have difference. So it's going to be cos of u minus v formula. So we're going to do cos u times cos v plus sine u sine v So then we know x is in the u spot for this problem, v is in the pi over 4 is in the v slot, which is also 45 degrees, right? So cos u, we're going to write cos, in the u slot we're going to put an x, times cos v, so cos 45, plus sine of u is x, times sine of pi over 4, or 45 degrees. So cos 45, again, is root 2 over 2 times cos x, right? So we can write times cos x. Over here, sine 45 is root 2 over 2. And we have sine x. And it says this is a positive. So now that's the other expression. So we're going to do this quantity minus this quantity, right? So we have root 2 over 2 cos x plus root 2 over 2 sine x equals 1. Now we need to distribute. So we're going to distribute or negate all terms in this right set of parentheses. So we have negative root 2 over 2 cos x minus root 2 over 2 sine x equals 1. This all drops down, so root 2 over 2 cos x minus root 2 over 2 sine x. Now, let's see. These cancel. And what's left? So we don't see the cos, we only see the sine. So we have negative root 2 over 2 sine x, right? This says sine. And we have another negative 2 root 2 sine x. So let's see what that would be. So if we have minus root 2 over 2 minus root 2 over 2 would mean I have negative 2 of those root 2's, because they're like terms, all over 2. That cancels. So we'd have negative root 2. So we have negative root 2 sine x equals 1. We'll divide by negative root 2. So we have sine x equals negative 1 over root 2. We have to rationalize by multiplying by root 2 over root 2. So we're asking ourselves and then I'm going to ask, and tell ourselves sine x is equal to negative root 2 all over 2. So now we're asking ourselves, at what locations, where will sine be negative root 2 over 2? So we know it's that reflection of that 45 degrees angle, right, that terminal side. If it's all students take calc, we know that we're going to have negative root 2 over 2 for sine in the second quadrant and in the third quadrant. So as we rotate in the positive direction, we ask ourselves, what are those angles? If each sliver is 45, right? 45, 45, 45, 45, 45. As we spin to this first spot, we have 180 plus 45. So 180 plus 45, which gets us 225 degrees, which is the same as 5 pi over 4. And we can also spin around to the last star, and we do 270 plus 45. Which is going to get us 315, which is 7 pi over 4.